Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barbies and Kens, Chelseas of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Considering Christopher, a Christopher Nolan podcast. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host. A giant sarcastic co-host? What a great idea. What's your human setting, Jay?
That's 100%.
Let's bring it down to 75, please. This week we are talking about Nolan's ninth film, Interstellar.
Yeah, this is the first one I saw in theaters.
Yeah, we saw it together in theaters that year.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, this is my personal favorite Nolan film.
Okay.
It's probably also probably my top 10 favorite films of all time.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this film when it came out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about it because I have some thoughts on it as well.
Sure. Yeah. There are some questionable things, but imaginative.
Yeah. My opinion, not to spoil it too much, has fluctuated a bit on this over the years.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, this was originally released November 5, 2014, way back in those good old years.
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep, we were in high school.
that was a good year for
It
films.
was.
We went to the theaters a lot.
Yeah, and this would have been one of the last movies we saw in theaters that year.
It would have, yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, this is kind of interesting because this was, for a while, Nolan was working exclusively with Warner Brothers, but this was the first movie in a while where he actually was working with Paramount Pictures as well. They handled the North American distribution, and Warner Brothers did the international distribution, which is something you'll occasionally see, but not incredibly common for Nolan films until now he's working with Universal. But for a long time, he was sticking with Warner Brothers. And yeah, anyway, this is directed by Christopher Nolan and written by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan. So they're brothers who worked together for many years, and then this is actually their final collaboration, at least so far. Jonathan Nolan would go on to work on TV mainly. He did the Person of Interest TV show and Westworld, which that one he did alongside his wife, Lisa Joy. And yeah, it is interesting. We've kind of alluded to Jonathan Nolan before as sort of an important collaborator for Christopher Nolan, and they worked on a lot of scripts together. And we'll get into the production a bit further down, but yeah, it is interesting after seeing 3 of the films that Nolan wrote by himself to go back and see him working with a co-writer. But yeah, this is starring a pretty large cast, but sort of the main roles we have Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Mackenzie Foy, Jessica Chastain, and Michael Caine. Quite a few people who have worked with Nolan in the past or will work with Nolan in the future. Then we have cinematography by Hoyte van Hoytema. I believe this was the first one he did with Nolan. I should have looked into that before, but
We'll find out.
yeah. Yeah, we have production design by Nathan Crowley, who actually worked on every Nolan film, starting with Insomnia through Tenet. Also did production design for John Carter and First Man. So kind of similar to Interstellar, to these sci-fi films. We have editing by Lee Smith, who worked with Nolan from Batman Begins through Dunkirk, and he actually won an Oscar for Dunkirk. And then we have the VFX supervisor here. So this is a very VFX heavy movie, unlike most of Nolan's. But the supervisor for the VFX was Paul Franklin, who worked with Nolan from Batman Begins through Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the score is Hans Zimmer. This is the second to last score Zimmer and Nolan did worked on together. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the production, the original idea, Jonathan Nolan actually wrote the script. Was working on it way back in 2007 with Steven Spielberg attached to direct.
Oh,
And it
okay.
was initially going to be set primarily on Earth. So it'll be about this sort of hardy group of survivors that are kind of dealing with um, life on this planet that can no longer sustain life. Um, but the project kind of fell through when it didn't get off the ground initially, until Christopher Nolan came on in 2012 after finishing The Dark Knight Rises. He was brought on to direct, um, and he kind of reworked the script. He brought on theoretical physicist Kip Thorne to expand the scope of the film to include space travel.
Yeah,
So
theoretically possible space travel.
yeah, it's very sort of based in science and theoretical physics, which we've seen Christopher Nolan deal with a lot since then. Of course, Oppenheimer is sort of touching on a lot of similar ideas of
Mm-hmm.
relativity and black holes, and less diving into it than this one is. That's more sort of the
Yeah, there's
setting
just
the
a
ground.
lot of stuff in this film. A lot of different space stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and it is interesting that the approach it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, the first 40 minutes, I think, are entirely set on Earth. That's kind of the biggest remainder from the Jonathan Nolan idea. Um, and so in 2067, there's this widespread disease that has ravaged all crops, and frequent dust storms are causing major health issues. And as a result, every government has defunded their non essential programs to focus on feeding their people. Joseph Cooper, who I don't think they ever say his first name in the movie, but he's a former NASA pilot who became a farmer after NASA got shut down, and he lives on a farm with his son Tom and his daughter Murph and his father-in-law. Um, his wife died of cancer before the start of the movie, which is dead wives, dead girlfriends is a common theme in Christopher Nolan movies. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
here we don't see the death happen. That's more his earlier stuff, but yeah. But one day Murph starts to notice strange things happening in her room. There are books that will fly off the shelves, and dust will clump in odd patterns on the floor. Um, and she calls it a ghost, though she and Cooper are able to deduce that it's actually gravity that's causing these things. But they're able to decipher this code, which through the sort of these strange gravity things, and it leads them to a secret NASA facility run by Professor Brand. Turns out that the government kept the program going in secret after realizing there was no way to solve the problems on Earth. So they're exploring ways to get off of Earth and find a different habitable planet. And I think they say 44 years ago that a
Yeah.
wormhole opened up near Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And they've already sent people through who have located a system of potentially habitable planets. Um, and the NASA scientists think that these fifth dimensional beings have opened this wormhole to save humanity. So Professor Brand invites Cooper to join the mission, and Cooper agrees despite knowing that he may never see his kids again. Um, and on the mission, we also have Doyle, Romilly, and Dr. Amelia Brand, who is the daughter of Professor Brand.
Mm-hmm.
So things go smoothly. They initially, obviously, there wouldn't be a
Initially.
conflict if things went smoothly throughout. But upon exiting the wormhole, they discover that three of the habits in the system have been flagged as potentially habitable. So they start by visiting the nearest, which is Miller's planet. But due to the proximity to the black hole, because of relativity, time passes differently on the planet. Um, so to not waste too much time, well, yeah, because hours become years. So you spend an hour on the planet, and it's the equivalent of 7 years back on Earth. So to not waste too much time, Coop, Brand, and Doyle decide to go down to the planet and do a quick in and out, while Romilly remains in orbit to perform research. But of course, things don't go well. Upon landing on the planet, they discover the wreckage of Miller's ship in the shallow water,
Mm-hmm.
and turns out that the planet is subject to these massive waves. Um, One shows up and kills Doyle and nearly destroys the landing vehicle. They're finally able to escape, but 23 years have passed on Earth in the time they were on the planet. And so they arrive back, and signals from Earth have been making their way through. They haven't been able to send any out. But that means that Coop now has decades worth of videos of his kids growing up without him. Um, Mainly his son, Tom, who's been sending the videos, but Murph is very angry with Cooper for leaving, but still has faith he will one day return. And she's actually, in these 23 years, started working with Professor Brand to try and find a way to get people off Earth once a habitable planet is found. But she only actually sends one message, and that's on the birthday where she turns as old as her father was when he left. So at that point, she and Cooper are essentially the same age because
Mm-hmm.
of relativity. So yeah, the 23 years have depleted the fuel supply, so the team now only have enough to visit one of the remaining two planets. Um, so Brand wants to go to Edward's planet, but after everything that happened on Miller's planet, Cooper doesn't trust her judgment, and he's actually able to figure out that Brand is in love with Edwards, so he decides to go to Man's planet instead. Um, and Dr. Mann was sort of the leader of the previous expedition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on Man's planet, they discover icy clouds and a cold climate. They are able to wake Dr. Mann, who is set up camp, um, and he tells them that there is a habitable surface beneath all of these ice clouds. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Professor Brand's health has been failing, and before he dies, he reveals to Murph that he actually has not been able to find a way to save the people left on Earth. They need this equation that's going to help them use gravitational anomalies to get a huge ship off of Earth. But he hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been able to figure out the equation, and he knew that. For years, he's known that, but he spent his entire life working on this equation to give people hope. Um, and Murph sort of sends this message to Brand back on the spaceship, and Man is able to confirm that, yeah, they would need data from inside of the singularity of a black hole to solve the equation
Mm-hmm.
and save the people on Earth. So the team sort of start preparing to set up these base camps on this planet, but while they're doing that, Man attacks Cooper and reveals that he sent out a false beacon hoping to be rescued. The planet is not at all habitable, but in his loneliness, Man has become sort of desperate to escape. Um, he cracks Coop's head open, and because the air isn't breathable, Coop begins to suffocate. Meanwhile, back at Man's base, a robot that Rumley was trying to fix explodes and kills him. It was sort of a failsafe installed by Man in case anyone tried to get the actual data on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Man commandeers one of the landing vehicles and attempts to dock with the spacecraft in orbit. Coop is able to call for help from Brand, and the two follow Man into space. But since Man isn't trained in proper docking protocol, when he opens the airlock, it's misaligned, which explodes. The air explodes outward and destroys the ship and kills man. And yeah, everything starts the ship sort of spinning around.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Coop is able to dock successfully with the ship, but the explosion has sent them towards the black hole. They're now sort of falling into it. Um, Realizing that there isn't enough fuel left to return to Earth, Coop comes up with a plan to slingshot around the black hole to get to Edward's planet. This involves using the landing modules and then dropping them to lose the excess weight. Brand stays on the ship while Coop and Tars pilot the landing modules into the black hole. Coop actually doesn't tell Brand that he's going to be on
So
one of the
yeah,
ships that
inside
gets
the black
dropped.
hole, he finds these
So
endless
she's a
iterations
little
of
bit
Murph's
surprised when that
bedroom from
happens.
across time.
But rather than
And he's
being pulled
actually able
apart
to
by the intense
influence
gravity of the
via
black hole,
gravity
Coop finds himself
things in
inside
the
the
room.
singularity.
So turns out he was the ghost who was throwing the books across the room and doing the things with the dust.
Mm-hmm.
So with the help of Tars, the robot, he is able to program the data from the singularity into the second hand of a watch that he gave Murph before leaving. So with that information, Murph is able to finally solve the equation, saving humanity. Now they can use this ship to fly off away from Earth. And Cooper exits the black hole decades later and wakes up on a spaceship, where he meets with Murph, who is now an old woman, and the two reconnect one last time. And then Cooper decides to steal a spacecraft and make his way to Edward's planet, where Brand has set up camp and is waiting for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of humanity to arrive. So yeah, pretty complicated and very scientifically, sure, not scientifically based, but like,
Theoretically, scientifically
yeah,
based.
it's science plays a very big role, and theoretical physics play a very big role in the
Mm-hmm.
plot.
And it's told in a way that it makes sense. Where we look at Tenet and they're constantly explaining the science, but it doesn't
Yeah,
make much sense. Here it does, and it feels natural or believable at
yeah,
times as
you
well.
have things, because I could imagine a version of this movie which is just constantly telling you about relativity and like time is passing differently here than there and going on and on about it. But here they do that, and then they have this scene where Coop and Brand arrive back on the spaceship after being gone for a couple minutes or a couple hours in their time, but 27 years or 23 years in everyone else's time. And you have that emotional connection, which then now they don't need to re-explain relativity every time
Mm-hmm.
it shows up again.
And there's also just the stake that's set up from the beginning that you have there's time that's running out.
Yeah,
The food is dying. People will start starving in a few years. There's not much time left, and so there's this risk factor coming into it, and there's more weight to these actions. Where, like, going back to Tenet, we don't care about the stakes because the stakes just don't feel. We don't really feel what the stakes are
yeah,
until we finally understand towards the end.
yeah. And even then, they're sort of these very off in the distant stakes. Whereas in Interstellar, we're seeing the dying Earth. You know, we spend 40 minutes on it in the beginning, and then we keep cutting back to it throughout. Um, and yeah, it is sort of an interesting counterpoint to a lot of what Tennant is doing, because they're both very time based as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're able to accomplish things differently. And yeah, this is very much in line with sort of a subgenre of sci-fi space movies that are very much grounded in sort of realistic, or as realistic as they can be, depictions of space and space travel.
Yeah.
I think one
Uh,
of the Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah. When watching this, my mind kept going back to A Space Odyssey, not like
Yeah.
the maybe not like the monolith or the human evolution aspect of it, but although now that I'm thinking about it, the Tesseract kind of actually counts as that. But
Yeah.
just like how they take their time with the spaceships, they rotate. They take a long time to do that. They let they let things breathe and let things happen naturally. And
Yeah.
Nolan does the same thing, but a little bit faster, so that the audience can not die while they're watching.
Yeah, I was reminded of Solaris, the Andrei Tarkovsky film, which also starts with, I think that one it's an hour. The first hour is spent on Earth. Um, but yeah, these sort of like grounded and more artistically minded sci-fi films. I'm also thinking of like Danny Boyle's Sunshine, which came out before Interstellar.
Mhm.
And then also Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity, which came out the year before Interstellar. And then a couple that came out after, like The Martian and Ad Astra, both of which are definitely influenced by Interstellar.
I mean, The Martian has Dr. Mand and Murph in it, so
Yep. Yeah. Reuniting those two people.
who never met in this film. So
Yeah. Well, uh, it is like the meme of how much money the US government has now spent rescuing Matt Damon between Saving Private Ryan and Interstellar and then The Martian.
I'm sure there's some more other films. Even the money
Yeah.
they spent to even try to kill him with Jason Bourne.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But yeah, sort of, I mean, I like this genre a lot. I think you could even include something like Denis Villeneuve's Arrival, which isn't a space travel movie, but is sort of dealing with bigger ideas through the lens of sci-fi.
right. I think that something that we've seemed to have lost in recent years, um, ever since like Star Wars or even more recent Star Trek, is we kind of lost like the wonders of space travel. Where here it's
Yeah.
like, okay, crazy stuff. We got a black hole, time distortion, we got a planet with giant waves, this ice planet with frozen clouds. Crazy. And you're exploring. Pretty cool. It's instead we have space actions like lasers and robots and evil governments instead of
Yeah.
something like this, which I do enjoy, is like survival and exploration. Something kind of low key.
Yeah. Now, have you seen Danny Boyle's Sunshine?
Um, I, a long time ago
Okay.
when it came out, I saw it on DVD. I think Sunshine's the film I'm talking about, where they go
Yeah.
close to the sun or something.
Yeah, they're going to reignite the sun.
And
And
there's this like one guy who's killing other people on a spaceship or something.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and it stars Cillian Murphy actually, who's another connection back to Nolan.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I was reminded a lot of Sunshine with this. I think they're two films that are dealing with similar sort of ideas of survival and
Hmm.
that kind of thing, but are also sort of have story issues, which depending on who you are may not be story issues.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so Sunshine is sort of a an iconic one of those classic. Oh, it's really good until the twist.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really like the twist ending that can either make or break this film for your
yeah,
audience. For me, it made it. Others, not so much.
yeah. I like Sunshine, and I actually didn't like because I when I watched it earlier this year because I had heard for years and years and years that oh the last 15 minutes are terrible. The rest of it's great. The last 15 minutes are terrible. So I'm watching it and I'm like I'm waiting for it to get bad. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and then at a certain point I realize, oh, I think we're like 5 minutes away from the end, and I just never realized because I was waiting for the shift. But I was so on board with it that I never got to the point where it lost me.
Mm-hmm.
But Interstellar is definitely more one where I'm like, oh, the twist doesn't quite work for me, though. We'll get into that a bit more.
Sure.
Um, yeah, not to go on too long of a sunshine tangent, but very, very. Even if you don't love the last 15 minutes, like it's so good. Um,
Yeah.
the VFX especially are incredible.
Well, one of the things that I really loved about the ending in general is how it really, the first 30 minutes are so important. Like they're
Yeah,
part of the emotional core of the relationship with our main character Cooper and his daughter. And I really love stories that are able to, in their ending, able to harken back towards the beginning and make some connections. And so the plot twist ending of like, oh, this tesseract and this crazy space thing, or like their dad was actually the ghost. Like halfway through the film, I started thinking, what if the dad is the ghost? And it turned out to be true. And it
yeah,
was like, oh, I love this. I love that they're connecting the dots. Like the entire film feels important because of this. Like the story helps our character grow, and then we get to the end and we go back to the beginning and just see different perspectives and how that works. And I love if I can just watch a complete story and it's like comes full circle.
yeah. It definitely feels like a journey that you go on as an audience member.
Hmm. And it's not that the whole fifth dimensional thing just comes out of nowhere. It kind of does, but like throughout the film, they're constantly saying it's like, "Oh, these other beings."
Yeah,
They keep mentioning it, and so when it happens, you're sort of you can sort of understand it when it happens.
yeah. Well, we'll have to get into that a bit more once we talk more specifically about the twist.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's so much of what I like about this. I should probably just say what my relationship with this was, because even back when I saw this in the theaters, I remember a specific moment where I was like, the docking scene. Watching that, I was like, oh, is this my new favorite movie of all time? Um, and then having the twist happen and not being fully on board with it.
Hmm.
And then over the years, I've kind of gone back and forth where sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, the twist is fine. And sometimes I'm like, no, it ruins the whole movie. This time, I think now that I'm older and am more aware of like themes and tracking themes throughout a film, I was tracking the themes a bit better. So the twist actually worked better for me this time around than it has in the past.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so much of this is bringing wonder back to a world that has forgotten it. You have that line from obviously it was used in the trailer quite iconically, and then
Hmm.
sort of in the film as well. Matthew McConaughey's lines of, "We used to look up at the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt."
Hmm.
And that's sort of Nolan, Christopher Nolan lamenting the end of the space era and sort of a change in priorities that has led to this loss of awe and wonder about the natural, not the natural world, the natural universe.
Hmm. Yeah.
And this idea that solutions aren't going to be found by clinging to the ways of the past, but instead by embracing the future. And you kind of see this with the conflict between Tom and Murph as they grow up.
Hmm.
And Tom is sort of stuck in the past. He's literally living in the same house that his dad was living in. Um,
Refusing to move on, even though it's
yeah,
a hazard for his family and health.
yeah. And then Murph, who's trying to move on, but can't quite get there until she has this sort of cathartic resolution with her relationship with her father,
Mm-hmm.
and then is able to move on and chart this new course to the future. It's almost, Murph's story is almost her being liberated from her grief about losing her father and finding a new life. But that's not sort of the focus of the movie, but you can definitely
Right.
read
Yeah.
that part. And I wonder if Jonathan Nolan's original script would have been more focused on the Murph character. But obviously don't really have access to that and know exactly what the differences are. I'm surprised we know as much as we do about the original draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the big thing, and this isn't like a huge revelation, though it is definitely something I didn't pick up on the first time I watched this, is that the whole movie is all about love. And not just a singular type of love. It's not just romantic love, not just familial love, but love as this big, all-encompassing concept. And of course, the key line for that is Dr. Brand's line of how love is the one thing we are capable of perceiving that transcends time and space, which is like, within the context of the movie, makes so much sense. And that's sort of the key that unlocks everything,
True. Yeah.
where Cooper and Murphy are connected through their love for each other, despite being in very different places and very different times. And we even see smaller things like Brandt's love for Edwards is justified by the story. She was actually right for trying to push them to go to Edward's planet. Her love was pulling her in the right direction.
Even though, like, objectively going to man made sense because he was the only one
Well,
transmitting.
yeah, they kind of both made sense for different reasons. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um and I do kind of want to get into it when we talk about Cooper, but why he makes that decision that he makes. Um but we even have like the character of Dr. Mann, who, what he everything he does is because of an absence of love. He has no human connection,
Mm-hmm.
and he's lonely and afraid, and so he does this horrible thing to try and get some kind of human connection, some kind of love. Sort of this idea that love is a fundamental human need that sort of all of the characters experience and want. It reminds me a bit of The Matrix, in that you look at the visual aesthetic of the movie and its sort of reputation in the wider culture, and you don't think immediately that it's all about love. But that's exactly what it's about. The Matrix ends with Trinity giving Neo true love's kiss and bringing him back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Very fairy tale ending. And then this one is literally love as this force that transcends time and is able to save the world. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. And
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is Jonathan Nolan versus Christopher Nolan. Because that seems more in line with like what Jonathan Nolan is doing with Westworld than what
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Nolan does with Dunkirk or Tenet or Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Like Christopher, I think he's in it for like the science and the visual aspect of.
Yeah. And I think also survival. Because that is a key element of Dunkirk and of Tenet, less so, but it is still there. And Oppenheimer is sort of a different kind of survival, but trying to get the atomic bomb before someone else does.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can see. Again, we don't know who wrote what or how much influence who had on which part of the script, but yeah, I think the idea of love as this force, as the most important part of the movie, seems to me more like a Jonathan Nolan thing than a Christopher Nolan thing. Yeah, we also have like the theme of honesty and what is the right amount of honesty and when is honesty helpful versus harmful. I would have to rewatch it tracking that theme to know exactly what it's saying.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I was more sort of focusing on the love theme here, but there's a lot about honesty. And then yeah, we talked a bit about survival, but sort of the difference between selfish survival and selfless survival. You know, Dr. Mann is focused on selfish survival, saving himself above everyone else, and it ends up putting other people in danger. Whereas Cooper is a bit reminiscent of the main character in Dunkirk, where he's motivated not only by his own survival, but the survival of the people he cares for. Cooper even more so than the character in Dunkirk, because
Mhm.
he is this self-sacrificial figure. He gives up his life multiple times over to save his kids, his friends, and humanity. Not just sort of leaving, not knowing when he's coming back, and then um, going to Edward's planet, knowing that they're going to be losing their so much time going that near the black hole, and then going into the black hole, not knowing what will come from it,
Mm-hmm.
but hoping that he will be able to get the data needed out. Yeah, it's all rooted in love. Now, we should probably talk a bit more about the twist ending here.
Okay.
Now, I've been known to like some twist endings that are a bit controversial. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think the twist in that one is brilliant. But that is a much hated twist.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I watching this and the twist not fully working for me, it's a bit disappointing. But again, it worked better for me this time than it has in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I don't fully have that sort of issue with it. I think it works well enough.
Yeah,
It does have the idea. It has the interesting idea of like the fourth and fifth dimension. The idea of humanity evolving on to that perspective, which kind of
yeah,
like I said, harkens back to Space Odyssey of human evolution, and then
yeah.
the monolith being the thing that witnesses that. Here, our monolith is the Tesseract that's trying to save humanity to get them to the point where they can uh, evolve to that perspective.
Yeah. And I like that in theory. I think part of the problem is that for the, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes or more before the twist, you kind of lose sight of the whole ghost storyline. Like the weird elements kind of get dropped for a much more realistic tone. And then suddenly, as soon as Cooper enters the black hole, now okay, now we're back into the weird sci-fi stuff.
Which is probably why during those 40 minutes that they cut back to Murph, who
Yeah,
is going to the location, so you have a small sense of that in your mind.
yeah,
But for me, like I was constantly figuring out like what's with the ghost the entire time when that's happening. So it gives me room to think. So
the first time I watched it, I forgot about the ghosts
mm,
by that point. It wasn't until Murph went back to the room that I was like, oh yeah, the ghosts.
yeah,
So it was a bit sort of a different experience there, that kind of. But yeah, it worked better for me this time around again. I do also think part of it is everything that happens after he exits the black hole. It ties things up a bit
Too much.
cleanly.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if it's too much because I do like a lot of the stuff there. I like that it's this very cathartic moment for him, but Murph has already moved on.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, maybe there's just a bit too much, like him, the recreation of his house and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe that's just a bit too much. Yeah,
Maybe.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I think the only thing of the ending I'm not too sure about is just like the last moment of him leaving. Like they're gonna get there anyway, so
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like he's doing something different. It's just gonna take longer for the big stuff to get there.
yeah. I think it raises questions on like, wait a second, how is he actually practically going to get there?
I mean, the
But
wormhole is still there theoretically.
I mean, in terms of the travel time, because he's not in a spaceship, he's in one of the landing things that just it literally has like a pilot seat and then a space for a robot.
Sure, yeah,
So
I don't know.
yeah,
It's
but
just something to look cool, get us
yeah,
back into space.
yeah. It it definitely, for me, the emotion of that though works. So
Yeah.
even if the practicality and thinking about it that way doesn't work, the emotion of it does.
Hmm. Yeah. Like the film is not perfect. Like there's a couple moments that don't make too much sense or don't work the way we hope them to. Specifically on the planet, on the water planet, where
Yeah.
right after they get hit by the wave, and like, okay, the ship is waterlogged. It's gonna take about an hour for it to clear out. But like they only talk for about 5-10 minutes before they lift off, and they don't cut
Yeah.
away. Like
Yeah.
they're there the entire time.
Yeah.
So just
That
like just a quick establishing shot would have just changed that. Just whoop, there you go.
or
That's problem solved. But like,
even the engines don't need an hour to empty.
but
They need 20 or 10 minutes.
but they don't say that,
No.
and because of that, the whole time thing when they get back to the ship and Romilly's like much older, it's like, they've only been gone for not that long. It doesn't feel like it's been hours. Um,
Though I
so
think that actually enhances it because the sense of time passing is so much different.
sure, but like for me, when they tell you it's going to take this long, but it doesn't, and it's still the same effect, just that
Yeah.
initial part just it doesn't work for me. But the emotional weight of of why that's important does work
Yeah.
with Cooper in the screen, which we can talk about that moment later.
Yeah. I mean, why not talk about it? I guess it's more
Well,
related to
it's
his
more the
character.
performance,
Yeah.
uh, which is what it's for. The only other aspect of the film that I am not too keen on is the brother Tom. We
Okay.
don't get a whole lot of him, and so he just seems too dumb. Like we don't really. I get I like understanding the theme of like clinging to the past versus moving on. I don't really get that because Tom moved on from the father,
Yeah. Well, I think he says he's moved on. I don't think he has.
and we don't. I didn't. We don't really get a sense for that from just watching, and
Yeah.
he's like a terrible husband. Like the wife is
Yeah.
almost afraid of him, and it's
Yeah.
like, what happened to Tom here? It's like Dad didn't raise me, Grandpa did. It's like, yeah. So what happened to you? Like Grandpa wasn't that bad of a guy.
Yeah. I think that
Like
is
there's a sense that like loss happens,
yeah.
but I don't know. I just feel like a couple scenes would help that.
And I wonder if that's something that's in the Jonathan Nolan, the original draft of the script,
Right. I mean, the
where
film is so long
yeah,
as it is. So they were probably, I don't know, just trying to let
yeah,
things
because you
go.
could see an entire movie where once Cooper's gone, rather than follow him, we stay
Mhm.
with Murph and Tom and see their lives growing up.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. For me, it worked this time around. I think just because in the last 10 years since this has come out, we've seen so many examples of people clinging to the past, even when there's no logic to it, and it's these lost causes that people cling to,
Mhm.
and the effect it has on the people around them. Um, so that's less the characterization working and more what I'm bringing into it,
Mhm.
adding to the what the film is saying. Yeah, I thought I was surprised how well the story worked for me this time around. The emotional through lines really, even parts that I didn't care as much for, still worked for me on an
Mhm.
emotional level.
Sure. And I like the aesthetic of the world that we have here. Typically, when you have this somewhat post-apocalyptic or almost apocalyptic future in this case, it usually comes with like a environmentalist message of like, oh, you're ruining the earth with all this. But here, like, it comes up with a solution of, okay, well, there's no going back, so we gotta have a problem and solve it by going forward. Whereas there's so many other films where like the solution is just look at this is what happens, and then they don't really give a good solution to just stop that.
Yeah, and I think there is sort of it's an interesting ideological question. And actually, Ad Astra, the James Gray film, it doesn't have the same environmentalist themes as Interstellar does, but that one, the whole point of the movie is why are we trying to leave Earth rather than finding what we need on Earth.
Hmm.
And that one's more so about emotional catharsis with the characters, but yeah, the sort of this is an interesting contrast to sort of the more environmentalist
Yeah,
themed
it's
films that
like,
are,
well, we screwed up.
and
Guess we gotta
even
go.
even Tenet is more about sort of looking for solutions that don't involve abandoning the world.
Hmm.
um
Yeah, I mean, even the solution is just not a great solution because, like, sure, they're going to
yeah.
a new planet, but like that planet's like right next to a black hole. Like once again,
Well, Edward's planet is farther away, which is why
sure,
Brand
but
actually
eventually,
prefers it.
eventually, like it's going to be the same problems. Like, okay, now we
Yeah.
need to escape again. Which, who knows? Maybe years of living next to a black hole is how they became fourth and fifth dimension beings by just evolution. All that
Yeah.
gravity going into them.
Well, they would be able to study a black hole living that close to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Honestly, so much of the science of this is why I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I was a big astronomy kid.
I like the
And, like,
pictures. I think I liked weather more.
okay.
Like I loved watching tornadoes and storms. I like natural
Yeah.
disasters.
Yeah.
Space stuff was like cool, but like that's in space.
You see, I was all in on space. I really liked it. And I mean, to this day, I took an astronomy course in college because I needed a science credit. And I was specifically told by my guidance counselor, don't take astronomy. It's the one everyone wants to take, but it's more difficult than the other ones. And I was like, oh, that's fine. And I enjoyed it. Was a lot of math, which that's the problem. Once you get past elementary school astronomy, then it's a lot of math and not a lot of, oh, cool planets.
Yeah, look at this planet. Here's the history of how we discovered this and that. Here's a different name to this planet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that galaxy.
Yeah.
We discovered that by looking at radiation or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then when you get beyond that, then it's the theoretical. It's the, okay, use these equations to figure out this and that and the other thing.
I'm
And
like,
I prefer looking at the results rather than trying to solve the equations myself.
I mean, luckily, it was just multiple choice. So I just, when they asked me to do math, I'm like, there you go. I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to say that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely when this came out, I was very into just the idea of space exploration. I do love the space exploration aspect of the good old days of like, we go to discover new things. I do love my Star Wars and pew pews, but sometimes you just want a low key space exploration,
Yeah.
dealing with crippling depression and loneliness.
Yeah, maybe that's the theme that connects a lot of these. Like, I haven't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, so I can't comment on that. But definitely Solaris and Sunshine and Ad Astra and all of those are definitely sort of thinking about depression and loneliness using the metaphor of space.
Yes, I think back on like Twilight Zone episodes, back like their idea of space travel before we even got into space is
Yeah.
so interesting to look at. It's like, here's our ideal thing. It's like traveling to the new world in our ships back in the old days, but in space. It'll be cool. There'll be things to see. In
Yeah.
reality, it's just darkness.
Yeah. Yeah, it is that sort of like, again, rooted in science and yeah, I like it.
Hmm.
Even things like the rotating of the ship to mimic Earth
Yes.
gravity. That's the kind of thing of like, okay, and we watched this in high school, so we were studying these kinds of
I
things, and
mean,
so to see them visualized on the big screen,
you
that
were
was cool.
studying that sort of thing. I was sleeping during class, so
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
But no, I remember there was a YouTube channel that would do like space videos, and I would watch the space videos, and it would be like, here's relativity, we'll explain relativity. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Then watch Interstellar, oh, it's relativity.
Sure, yeah. Just so cool. Like this film definitely blew my mind. Like it other people it's like, Inception, that's the blew my mind. Like this is like I had like a crisis after I watched this film. I don't know if you remember, like right after the film came out, like my mind was blown. I was like, dude, what, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like really when I got on board with Nolan.
Okay.
Like you told me to watch this film. It's like, oh yeah, Nolan. He did that Dark Knight and Inception. It's like, okay, cool. I'll watch it, I guess. Then I watch it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's really good.
Yeah. And it's all about love, which I didn't pick up when I first saw it, but
Mm.
I was a dumb high schooler.
Well, we all were.
I mean, I kind of picked up on it, but not the extent to which it permeates everything in the story.
Right? Yeah.
Which we'll see several of these Nolan movies coming up that I saw at a
Mm.
younger age and then realized there were deeper things going on
Yeah, this is one of
later.
those films that I really love. It's one of my favorite movies, but I choose not to watch it as much.
Okay.
Because it's for me, it's been a couple years since I last watched this film, and so when I do that, like each time I watch it, it's just like impactful instead of
Yeah.
becoming dull to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't seen this in a few years as well. But
Mhm. Like I can watch Inception multiple times and
yeah.
still enjoy it. That's the kind of film Inception is. But like this one you need some time in between.
Yeah. You need to let it rest for a while.
Yeah, kind of like Logan.
Yeah, they're definitely a heavier movie overall.
hmm It's not as like convenient or blockbustery
Yeah.
where you can just rewatch it and like every moment's just nicely paced. Here you have your fast moments and then your soft moments.
Yeah. And it's 3 hours long,
Almost
which
3 hours long. Yeah. No, I keep forgetting how long this film is every time I watch it.
yeah, it's definitely a weightier film overall.
hmm
But yeah, anything else before we get into the scores?
I think we can move on. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 again. The ending still isn't quite working for me, but it's working for me more than it was in the past, so
I also gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
yeah. I think after watching the more recent Nolan films, the thing that stands out so much is the emotions of this
hmm
and how well the emotions carry through. Because Dunkirk, it's like not really all that of much of a focus, and then less so in Tenet, and then Oppenheimer kind of has it, but yeah, just the emotional through lines work so well, and a big part of that is the characters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, let's start with Cooper, the protagonist.
Cooper.
Yeah, it's interesting doing these Nolan films after the Barbie movies, where every Barbie character protagonist is basically the same, whereas here we have a wider variety and more interesting protagonists.
hmm Cooper. I just like Cooper. He's interesting to watch,
Yeah.
and I really like him as a dad. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's probably not a great father, but like just watching him, like he doesn't get angry at his kids.
Yeah.
He's just like they do something mad, and like he's like, okay, well now that you're here, help me out, would you?
Yeah. He is a good father when he's around.
hmm
Um but there is that sort of some of the decisions he makes that he has to then deal with the consequences of.
hmm
But he sort of starts the movie feeling stuck, and there's the scene with the drone, this Indian Air Force drone that has been flying in the sky for 10 years and has finally come down enough, and there
hmm
Cooper and his kids are able to grab it and reuse it for spare parts, and he specifically says he's repurposing it for something of social value. I don't think that's the exact term, but something useful to who they are or their
Right.
situation right now. And that's exactly Cooper's situation. He's this pilot that has now become a farmer because that's what he needs to be, but that's not his purpose. And Murph even has a line of, that's sad, like that's sad that you're repurposing it. That's not its original purpose.
Can't you let it go? It wasn't
Yeah.
hurting anyone.
Yeah. And that's kind of Cooper's, what he needs to happen, but also what will lead to a lot of pain for everyone involved.
hmm
And this idea that, as Don, his father-in-law, says that he was born either 40 years too late or 40 years too early. That he doesn't belong in the world as it currently is.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, he chooses to leave his kids not knowing when he will return. And yeah, that decision, and what does it say about him as a father? And he's doing it to save his kids, but also it's sort of this decision that ends up causing a lot of grief for
It's a
them.
double-edged sword. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, if I stay here, live with the family, they're gonna suffer because we weren't able to do the space thing.
yeah,
But if I go, I can maybe save them, but then I don't. I miss out on their entire life because of
yeah.
this.
And I think there is something in his calculation there of, if I don't do this, I will regret it. Like, no
Right.
matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to regret it.
Yeah, an entire film, like he's constantly calculating, like being able to return home to
Yeah,
see his family. It's not until like after Man and they lose all the fuel.
yeah,
It's like, okay, now I'm fully into this.
yeah. And then we have the moment in the Tesseract, which is the emotional catharsis of the film, where, or at least for Murph's arc, where she's been waiting for him to come back, and then she realizes through this sort of weird time stuff he's actually been there the entire time. um and she just didn't see it. And for her, that's this moment that it's this catharsis for this relationship, and she's able to let go of that grief and move forward and save humanity and have her own family. And when Cooper finally comes back in person, she doesn't need him anymore, and she sort of has this moment with him, but it's more for him than it is for her, because she has
Hmm.
her whole family there with her.
Yeah, and it'd be helpful. It's like, hey, you can move on. Don't stay here to watch me die.
Yeah,
You can move on and help Brand or something.
yeah. And it is, I don't know, it's interesting given that Nolan is Christopher Nolan specifically, like this is a thing in Inception as well, sort of the absent parent, and how that weighs on the parent, and
Hmm.
the sort of thing. And as a film director, Nolan probably spends a lot of time away from his kids. I
Sure.
believe they're both grown now, but you can tell he's trying to figure out what that means. And like, I almost wonder if he's asking himself, like, am I a good father through these characters? And maybe this is also a Jonathan Nolan thing as well.
Hmm.
You think about, and his daughter has a cameo in Oppenheimer as a lady who gets her face melted off in an atomic blast.
Oh, does she now?
Yep, that's Nolan's daughter. She gets the close up. And sort of
Well.
the symbolism of that moment, though, is really interesting, because it's, for Nolan, that is the worst possible thing he could imagine, and that's what Oppenheimer is imagining.
Hmm.
So it's this moment, the emotions of it are sort of, as they connect back to the creator, are interesting here.
Hmm.
And obviously we don't want to read too much into that, because we don't want to speculate about the personal lives of people we don't know. But yeah, that's sort of those themes that run through a lot of his work. And yeah, I mean, the whole story is Cooper discovering the power of love,
Hmm.
because he's sort of skeptical at first. Especially when Brand posits the idea that love is the one thing that transcends time and space. And yeah, that's the lesson he has to learn. And I do kind of want to talk about that decision he makes to go to man's planet,
Mm-hmm.
because they're presented with this choice where it's like neither option seems perfect. Both of them have their pros and cons, but
Right.
Cooper kind of unilaterally shuts down the Edwards option by being like, no, I don't trust Brad's to be objective about this.
That plus man is the only one who is still transmitting.
Yeah,
Plus, probably the most important part, like going to man means returning home as well,
yeah.
whereas the other one does
Well,
not.
I think both of them were,
No, I think that was one
because
of the stakes where you go to the other one and you can't return.
okay, yeah, no, it was so they only have enough fuel to go to one of them and go back. What the later conversation is when Brand tells Cooper like, if we go to man's planet and it doesn't work out, then you'll have to make the decision. We'll have enough fuel to go to Edwards or to go back. Um so there, at least in what the film presents, there would have been enough fuel to go to Edwards and to go back. But not if they went to man's first. At least in my
No, I'm
understanding.
pretty sure the idea was they go to Edwards, and that was why they can't return back. Because that's
Okay.
when Bran mentions, like, the only reason why you're going to man is because that way you can return home. That's when she
Okay.
brings up that
Okay.
aspect of it.
Okay, so maybe, yeah, because I guess Edward's planet was further away as well. So maybe that is. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch those scenes to confirm. But yeah, that decision that he makes, it feels motivated by the wrong thing. It feels like he's being a little bit vindictive there. And that's an interesting character flaw that he then has to live with the consequences of.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, that's the decision that means he ends up going into the black hole. And it
Right.
works out in the end, but he still misses seeing his kids grow up.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps the decision for the return journey is because, like, of what happens on the wave planet is like 20 years have passed, and he
Yeah.
sees like what the absence has done to his children. Like, to one, for Tom, like he sees his whole life through that, and then Tom moves on. And then let's transition to Murph here, where
Yeah.
we don't see Murph until she finally does it, the on the birthday, out of like spite and resentment, and really what the idea of absence can really torment a child. And so
Yeah.
Murph is just tormented by losing her father, and not being able to have closure with that because they didn't leave on good terms.
Yeah. It kind of feels like her character has been stuck in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of metaphorically, in the way that the Tesseract sort of represents the infinite time of this room, whereas Murph has been stuck in that room. Um, and sort of Murph and Cooper having to trade places,
Mm-hmm.
who's stuck in the room and who isn't. But yeah, she is angry and sad and lonely, and yet she's also motivated by the hope of one day seeing her dad again. Like she's clinging to it. It's not even like like a it's something she just can't let go of. And that's sort of why the when Professor Brand reveals the lie and she tries to figure out if Cooper knew that before leaving, it
Mhm.
destroys her because she's like, did he leave me with that false hope? She's more concerned about that part of the lie than the lie that Professor Brand was telling.
Right. Yeah. Because before, like, her father was this big aspiring figure to her
Yeah.
that was understanding, um, and like a good teacher in a practical way instead of just like telling you everything. He's like teaching by doing.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning when they had the flat tire, and it's like, how do we fix it? He's like, well, you just figure it out. Like, I'm not always going to be to help you to tell you these things, and so
Yeah.
with that gone, you're suddenly by yourself.
Yeah, and that she does have to figure things out, and he helps her, but she's still the one that solves the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that sort of in the Tesseract when Cooper realizes they didn't choose him, they chose her.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't chosen to be the one to save humanity, she was. And it's their connection. That's why everything has worked out the way it has. But he's not the central point of that equation. And it is interesting in sort of, again, comparing it to Tenet, where the character who is the emotional center of the film isn't the protagonist. Here we have that again, but I think it works better because it's all integrated better.
And yeah, and there's a connection to the protagonist with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the emotion of it so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think the choice to not see her grow up like Tom, I think that's an interesting choice.
Right. Yeah.
I think we potentially miss a bit of her arc, but I also get the sense that, she hasn't changed much in the 23 years. Despite having grown up, she's still stuck. She's still the same person.
Mm-hmm. It does two things. One, by not showing her grow up and not having her send messages, it does show her just how much it hurt her and how angry
Yeah.
she is because of the decision. And two, it makes it a much more powerful moment because to him in his mind, she's this little girl. He gets
Yeah.
to see Tom, but he suddenly sees her as an adult, and like that's also a powerful image to the audience because I vividly remember sitting in the audience and like when it's revealed and when she's revealed, I remember hearing the gasps in the
Mm.
audience when that happens, and that sticks with you.
Yeah. 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 That moment, and, switching the actors out and having, I mean, obviously you kind of have to switch the actors out, but
Right.
that that reveal there. Yeah, I think she's a really interesting character. In the typical Christopher Nolan sense, she doesn't get a ton of focus after a certain point.
True.
But she is still the most important character in the movie
Mm-hmm.
in an odd way. Yeah. Now, next up, we have my favorite character in the movie, Dr. Brand. Um, she just has some of the best lines and the best monologues here. She's kind of the counterpoint to Cooper throughout most of the second, or like the space travel part of the movie. And yeah, she's sort of the more open-minded of the two. Yeah. So she has this moment in the wormhole when they're going through, where she has the first handshake with them, which we find out later is Cooper, but
Mm.
sort of she's the one who's thinking of these fifth dimensional beings and trying to imagine what they're doing and why they're doing things. But then she's also the first person in the film to realize that the key to everything is love. And sort of the way that her relationship with Cooper changes over time, where they do end up loving each other, not romantically so much
Right.
as friendship wise.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending kind of implies that it might turn into romantic love, but I think it's more powerful when left sort of platonic.
Right. I mean, just having like someone to talk to,
Yeah,
like I guess a reason to uh for the ending for him to go and find Brand is so that we don't have another situation like Dr. Man, who he's just left there by himself.
yeah, yeah, and the sort of the importance of human connection and how that's what keeps the two of them sane,
Mm-hmm.
and their partnership, their ability to work together.
Right.
And it doesn't always work out. Like, she does make mistakes. On Miller's planet, she wants to get the data from the ship, and that leads to her not going back to the landing vehicle right away, and leads to Doyle's death, not directly but indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
I think watching it again, Doyle was kind of an idiot.
Right.
Like, Case had her, he should have just gone back to the ship and gotten aboard himself.
True.
Um,
But it could have been a thing where it's like you've seen that you don't really need the info. Like this planet
yeah,
is like giant waves. I don't think that's going to be habitable.
yeah, yeah. It is. She does make the mistake there. I think the movie blames her a bit too much, given that Doyle makes his own decision to not immediately go back to the ship.
True.
And to her credit, she tells them to leave without her. It's Cooper who decides to save her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of, bringing back the idea of love. Again, more so platonic here than romantic, but
At the expense of Doyle.
yep, poor Doyle. He you don't get much of a sense for his character. We could talk about Romilly and Doyle here because they're just kind of there for exposition.
Right. I like Romilly,
Yeah. He
but
gets more humanizing moments, partially because he's alive for longer.
mm,
Um,
like, I like the moments where it's just them quiet on the spaceship, and
yeah.
he's like, "Man, like there's not what's separating us in space is just this thin layer of metal."
Yeah, and he has that connection with Cooper, which I'm going to talk about that more in the sound design moment, but it is
True.
sort of a
Hmm.
very powerful moment.
And I also just really like the idea of him aging as well
Yeah.
while they're on the planet.
Yeah, and that connection between all of them.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. He is a more interesting character than Doyle, who is just there to die immediately. But
Hmm.
yeah, there is sort of, for me, that like they both kind of feel like they're mainly there for exposition. Like, I don't think the movie ever deals with Romilly's death.
No, I don't think so either.
I
Like
think it's just
the
kind
only
of
one
tossed
who's
off.
sad about Romilly dying is Tars.
Yeah,
It's like I could not save him.
yeah. So next up on my list, I have Professor Brand,
Hmm.
who's this really odd figure. He's leading with a lie,
Right.
but because of his lie, it actually works.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Again, I wasn't really tracking the lies versus honesty theme as much, so I don't have as much to say on that as the
Right.
love theme.
But he just serves that purpose of being like that leader who sends them off on a mission and then find out he lied
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's like good X-Men stories. Where you
Sure.
have
Yeah.
Professor X isn't being entirely truthful about something.
Hmm.
Here it's similar idea.
Yeah. And then his
we
death is really sad.
yeah, for me, we'll get into it when we get into the sound. His, the and it is partially performance as well, but the fact that you can't hear a word he's saying made that moment didn't quite hit for me.
Okay.
Or at least I had a very tough time understanding. Now I watched this without subtitles very intentionally. Um and yeah, I could not understand what he was saying. This might have been the first time I watched it without subtitles, because when we saw it in the theaters, it would have had Spanish subtitles.
I guess.
But yeah, having not seen this in several years, that moment was like, I don't understand anything he's saying except when he says that he lied, and then when he starts quoting the poem. Everything else is unintelligible.
And somewhat unimportant, I guess.
Yeah, no, those are the two things that you need to hear, but you only barely hear them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I
did
think
have
that,
subtitles, so I
yeah,
got
I think that moment hits more if you know what he's saying.
it.
Yeah, we talked a bit about Tom, so we can probably move past him here.
Right.
Um, Tars, he doesn't have much to do except be sort of comedic relief.
I don't know. I love Tars. He's funny, but I just love that he's a robot
Yeah,
as well. It's
yeah, and
just
in a way that he feels very human, but there's those moments where you realize, oh no, he's a robot.
right. It's really like the way he bounces off of Cooper.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun as well.
yeah, and honestly, kind of reminded me of the clone troopers in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This idea of these people who have their own distinct personalities and thoughts and feelings, but at the end of the day, they have to do what you tell them to do. Now, as a robot, I don't know that Tars actually has distinct thoughts and feelings.
I mean, just settings that you can set up with him.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he has a humor setting, a discretion setting, an honesty setting that you could change at a whim.
yeah, yeah. It's not even like Star Wars droids level of sentience.
Right.
Although Star Wars droid sentience is a question that has no good answer, so maybe a bad comparison. But yeah, I like Tars. I think he works really well as as a counterpoint to Cooper, as you were saying.
Yeah. I want a Tars. Just he's
Sort
an
of
interesting robot that's just
yeah,
like
looks like a Minecraft, like an
he
Enderman.
looks just like this square
Yeah,
monolith figure. There's the monolith for you,
yeah,
I guess. Going back to Odyssey.
yeah. I actually performed as a puppet.
As a puppet and other stuff as well for
Yeah,
extreme situations. But yeah, no.
yeah,
Yeah, he just looks good. You could tell. I could
yeah,
feel the metal.
yeah. Next up, we have Doctor Man.
Dr. Man.
Now, did you catch this time around? Because this was the first time I caught it, where Brand, before going into hypersleep when they're going to Saturn, says something about how there's no evil in space. Like all of the evil is left on Earth. Because everyone in space, everyone here is the best of the best. So we have left evil behind. And then when they confront man, now they're coming head to head with evil that they didn't expect. And it's not evil in the like cackling supervillain sense, but evil in the selfish and dangerous sense.
So I didn't think of it like that specifically, but in a similar sense, it's like I don't I don't really believe in things as like inherently evil, like what's happening on Earth with like the dust storm and such, but like evil being humanity, what they
Yeah.
take with them.
Yeah.
I think it's like a thing that she said, like what they take with them, and so
Yeah.
that's where I was like, I was like specifically thinking about the results of sin and what does it mean, like in space. It's like, okay, is the result of sin, does that affect how black holes work when they destroy life in planets or something like that? I don't know. So
Yeah.
I guess I got distracted with that line of thinking, but no, yeah, that's a good point. Like it's definitely that whole expectation versus reality of like Mark the man, he's the best of the best. He's the best of us. And then
Yeah.
we get to him and he's like
A
I
coward.
it was like yes, he's a coward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't judge me, Cooper. You weren't tested like I was.
Yeah.
And like everything he does, it's like I'll do this, but then he doesn't do it. Like I'm here with you. I'm sorry I can't watch you. I thought I
Yeah.
could, but I can't. But don't worry, I'm still with you with the head thing. And then he turns off the head thing.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like his motivations make sense, but they're still
Extreme.
yeah.
Like he's extreme, like he's lonely, and so he like does this thing of like being selfish to want to get saved. And then upon hearing that um okay, we're gonna go home, we're not gonna complete the mission on the other planet, he's like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then like they're gonna figure out anyway, so he's gonna go to the extreme again and like be the chance for him to be the good guy by saving the humanity with that cloning deal.
Yeah. I wonder because there's you could almost draw a parallel to like Cain and Abel here of sort of the first murder committed in space. Sort of tie that back to and this movie in general feels like you could tie it back to sort of a Christian worldview very well because the whole idea of it is love as this powerful force that transcends time and space.
True. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do think this is more of a sort of secular take on all of that, but
Of
still
course.
those connections there.
I mean, you have them leaving planet Earth, and then you have them becoming fifth dimensional beings. I mean, yeah, sure. But you can take some of those thematic elements and apply it to it. So
Yeah. There aren't really any other major characters. There's a couple of like Topher Grace is in this.
yeah.
Pops up for a few scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There's the father-in-law, Cooper's father-in-law.
Yep.
But they're kind of more periphery characters here.
Sure. Yeah.
I gave the characters a 4.5 out of 5. I think
So did I.
yeah. I think there's a bit more depth that could be added to some of them, but this is a long movie already.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, add more scenes. Like, I think it'd be interesting to see more of Topher Grace than just what we have.
Yeah,
He's like,
the the relationship between him and Jessica Chastain is a bit rushed,
I mean,
and it kind of feels like the Hollywood thing of, okay, we have a guy and a girl, and they are going to end up together, rather than an actual organic thing.
we
Um,
knew that they were friends, so maybe there
yeah,
was something starting before, but we don't really get to see it. So,
yeah, I think that
to be
is
fair, like I don't think we really needed to.
no,
Just
yeah,
the footnotes of it. It's like okay, well,
and honestly, now that I think of it, is do they confirm in the film that they end up together?
no, I don't think they do. But like, you can just think
You
about
could
it.
infer it, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, besides the kiss, and the kiss isn't even like a romantic thing.
Right. It's just like the excitement kiss that
Yeah,
happens
yeah,
in most other films. There's always that one excited kiss, and it's usually
yeah,
with like authority figures or something.
yeah. So yeah, anyway, on to the visuals. So I put in the Google Doc near the bottom, because are you aware of the whole thing with the black hole in this?
I yes, I am. I love that
Yeah,
story.
which for years and years and years, because we've known about black holes for a long time, but by nature they're, I mean, you can't see them because they don't emit light. You can see
And
what's around them.
right. Also,
um
they're so far away. We don't exactly know what
yeah,
they would look like.
so for years and years and years, artistic depictions of black holes, it's just a disk with like a black center, and then
Mhm.
usually stuff spewing out the either end.
Well, I don't know if I've ever seen the spewing stuff either end, but like just a disc with a black circle
Yeah,
in the middle. That's how I
and
would view it.
yeah. So Kip Thorne was brought on. He's an actual theoretical physicist who was brought on to work on this film, and they developed a software to, put in this theoretical physics data and then get visualizations out of it from a computer. When
Hmm.
they did that, they're like, wait a second, this doesn't look at all like these artistic renderings of a black hole. It's this sphere with light around it and a disk of like disks of light around it.
Yeah, there's
Um,
that disc that cuts across in the middle as well.
yeah, and it was like, okay, well, guess the science says that's what it looks like, so I guess we'll
Well,
just go with it for the movie.
like they saw it the first time and thought like, that must be a glitch or something,
Yeah,
and so they did it again, and it was the same thing. So then they brought it to Kip Thorne, and he looks at that and he's like, oh, well, yes, of course, that makes sense.
yeah. So then a few years after this came out, we got the first ever picture of a black hole, and looks surprisingly similar to the Interstellar one,
Right?
or
Yeah, we
perhaps
don't.
not surprisingly because it is the scientifically based. But
Yeah, the very blurry image of a black hole. We don't
yes,
see the line across like the film, but I don't. I mean, it's
yeah,
how
you,
could you
you
tell?
can't make up much detail here, but it is surprising how. And this was, I'm not entirely sure all of the science behind this, but this sort of Interstellar being the first major project that had the budget to just, hey, let's visualize a black hole.
Hmm.
And then that being sort of confirmed as like, oh yeah, that is actually kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah, really cool. Just very interesting story. I love the visual style of the film.
Yeah.
Like I love the way that the robots move. I love seeing that mountain wave. Like just the cool idea. Even the frozen cloud. It was like what that
Yeah.
hit when they hit across that cloud. It's just like wait what? It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's
And
just a really cool film. I think one of my favorite shots is just a very static shot when we get to Saturn. It's just
yes.
that pan across, slow pan. It was just that lens flare going across.
Yeah.
Just really beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's inventive, but still grounded.
Right.
Um, it still feels possible. I think one of my complaints is that I wish it would just a little bit more. I like the wave planet. I like the ice cloud. I wish there were a couple more ideas like that.
A little bit more.
But you know, I can't complain too much because everything we do have is so spectacular. Even like the wormhole as this like sphere that distorts space, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really good. And then like the aesthetics of the spacecraft and of all of that kind of stuff, it feels futuristic but grounded in modern designs.
Right. Like I love the spinning in order to achieve gravity. I love the
Yeah.
docking sequence where they had to spin in a certain
Yeah.
direction in order to dock.
Even like the Tesseract, which again, I don't love every part of that, but the design of it is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know how much theoretically possible that is, but
Yeah,
the
that is
visual of it just I just love looking at that and thinking it's like, man, I feel like I can touch that thing. Like I think it just feels like silk. Like my curtains or
yeah.
something. Just it's just a distinct texture to
Yeah.
that apparatus that's like, oh man, I want to touch that.
Yeah. And I will say some of the effects haven't aged nearly as well as others.
The waves could be a bit better for sure.
And water is very difficult. The waves, there's like this, the docking sequences, the look very digital. The specifically the shots of the ships attaching to each other. Something about that looks very digital to me, and that's something I noticed even back watching it in the theaters 10 years ago.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, 10 years, so not everything is going to have aged perfectly. I do, however, really love the cinematography. Like
Yeah.
the contrast between Earth and space, the sort of the greens and the browns versus the blues and the grays.
Hmm.
Um, and then when they get to Edward's planet, of course, it's brown. So that kind of a tone we haven't seen in the space segments yet.
Hmm.
And yeah, the I mean, Hoyte van Hoytema is a very good cinematographer, and his work with Nolan is very strong, and has this very specific visual aesthetic, which I think I've said before, like the whole gray color palette isn't always my favorite, but I think Nolan and Hoyte van Hoytema and the production design team and the costume design team
Hmm.
make it work.
Yeah.
And yeah, the lighting is also great. They rather than using blue screens or green screens, they would project kind of similar to the volume that they use for the Mandalorian and
Well, it's
other
like
projects. But
the earlier concept of the
yeah,
volume before the LED screens, they would project the image.
yeah. And I think personally it's better integrated here than it is in like the Mandalorian, just because they're inside of something, so you don't see the boundary between the screen and the rest of the set.
Mhm.
But yeah, just really great visuals all around. So yeah, I gave them a 5 out of 5. Part of that is, you know, I would drop my score a bit for some of the effects that haven't aged as well, but the whole story of them figuring out what a black hole looks like that's so cool. And I remember in the theater seeing it and going, what is going on there? Then reading about it afterwards and be like, oh no, their depiction of a black hole is more accurate than anything I have seen before.
Right. I also gave it a 5 out of 5. I love the way everything looks. Like it just looks so cool. Sure, yeah, you could always do a little bit more, but what we have is just still. I love the look of it.
Yeah,
Even the way, even the cinematography when they're on Earth, just something about it just looks nice to me.
yeah. Now on to the performances. We
Mm.
have a lot of very emotionally charged performances, and everyone here is very good at crying.
Yep.
which is good because they need to do a lot of it.
Right. Yep.
Now I know you had stuff to say about Matthew McConaughey's performance.
Yeah. No, McConaughey here. He has a really good witty, semi-witty chemistry with everyone.
Yeah,
Where, like, he's always gonna just have a little stab joke to play to everything. He just sounds so natural.
yeah,
Like his lines don't really sound like they're scripted. They sound like he's just like casually saying something, and they could just be the way that McConaughey just says things. He says things like so quietly, just like as a mumble to himself, like, "Oh, yeah, that's a. I think I'll get her some popcorn or something like that." And I just think that works really well. I think the scene that I think most people will just remember is him watching the messages, and him crying at them. I know that there was a meme where they took that scene and replaced the footage with like other stuff. So back when the first teaser trailer for The Force Awakens came in, they put in that teaser there, and it's like, McConaughey, he's a big Star Wars fan, super happy for the new movie to come out. And I loved watching those meme videos, of course, but it is a really good performance, and his scream, "Don't let me leave, Murph!" at the end is just like, it
yeah,
gets me when I get to that moment. So
yeah. Definitely that emotion. He captures that emotion and really grounds the whole movie in emotion.
right, and it also helps that I haven't really seen McConaughey in much other properties.
Okay.
So
He's honestly so different here, just his character and the way he's styled, that I don't think, even if you'd seen a lot of his other work, that it would influence how you see him. Maybe it would, but I don't know. He's such a good performer, and I don't know. I think the year before, I think, was when he won the Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club, which he's fine in, but yeah, this is a much superior performance.
mhm.
Um, very very sort of salt of the earth, but then again, you have those big emotional moments that he sells so well,
Right, yeah,
and something you don't usually see too much in Christopher Nolan movies. You see it more in like there's some big emotional moments in like Westworld. That's Jonathan Nolan, of course. But yeah, yeah, I can't imagine this movie working the same with someone else in that role. Now we also have Anne Hathaway, who's returning to a Nolan film after The Dark Knight Rises.
hmm
Um, and she's just phenomenal here.
right, yeah,
Like she really hits her stride in the second half, when the script gives her more emotions to play with, um, and just really knocks it out of the park. Yeah, I'm an Anne Hathaway fan in general.
I don't think I was back
Okay.
then. I think back then it was like Anne Hathaway is so recognizable. Like I of course know her from The Princess Diaries, but
Yeah.
like she has such a recognizable face that like back then I was like, I don't want to see the same person over and over again. Like now we have The Rock and everything, and he's just The Rock, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how I felt about Anne Hathaway. I didn't really love her performance in Dark Knight Rises. I
Okay.
think my opinion has changed over the years. Um, but I did like her here. I thought that it worked much better. But yeah, no. Um, she's good. I don't really have much to say.
Yeah, she has had this very interesting career, which unfortunately hasn't always been the greatest
hmm
time for her. She's been subject to a lot of unfair criticism. She has a sort of, in her interviews and things, a more of like a theater kid energy. She's very excited and emotional. And it's people have criticized her a lot for it. Famously, the 2011 Oscars, she co-hosted with James Franco and got absolutely trashed for her work there. But watching it back, James Franco is so much worse, and he should be getting blamed for it. But
Hmm.
yeah, and this was kind of part of her. She's had a bit of a career rehabilitation in the last few years, and this definitely feels like it's part of that. Um,
Yeah, it definitely felt like a different performance than like you usually see her, where she's a little bit more sporadic in
yeah,
other films.
she tends to do more sort of comedic roles, whereas this is very dramatic. But she knocks it out of the park. She's able to do that drama and that emotion really well. Now, as Murph, we have two different actors here. Mackenzie Foy plays young Murph. This was her first major role. She's gone on to do a couple of things. I think
Hmm.
the biggest thing is the Nutcracker movie that no one watched.
Okay. Yeah,
The Disney one.
I think they have a lot of great casting for Murph.
Yeah,
Like the child actor and then the adult actor, even the older actress in the interview section, just
yeah.
you can really tell looks like her. I didn't quite see it in the hospital room, but
Okay.
yeah, for the most part, like really solid casting all around.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mackenzie Foy is, I think, giving one of my favorite child performances that I've seen.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we have Jessica Chastain, who is playing the older version of Murph, and again,
Mhm.
great actor. Recently won an Oscar, very deserved in my opinion. But she was one of has been one of my favorite actors for a while. Um, and yeah, she's in a lot of things as well. But yeah, this is just the emotion she brings here, and she's playing these sort of this sadness and this anger really well.
Mhm.
Um, and then we have the older version of Murph is played by, I believe, Ellen Burstyn, who is an iconic actor. I think she has an Oscar win, at least a nomination. I know. Yes, Ellen Burstyn. Um, and yeah, again, she is also she only has two scenes, but she hits everything she needs to in those two scenes.
Mhm.
Oh, and I am seeing. I misspoke when I said that Interstellar was Mackenzie Foy's first major role. Her first major role was as Renesmee in the Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part One and Two.
Sure. Yeah.
So, oh, she was also in The Conjuring. That. Oh yeah, very good performances for Murph. I think the other performance that kind of stood out to me was Michael Caine, because he's just so good at delivering exposition.
Right. Yeah.
His deathbed scene we've talked about a bit. I think part of that is performance, a lot of that is sound design. Um, they really needed to get him to do another take or something,
Yeah.
but
Sure. But yeah, most of Michael Caine's performance, they're almost the same. Like you said, he's very good
yeah,
at exposition, and so there's really there are rare moments where he does get to emote. I think the only other one that stands out is probably in Dark Knight Rises, which we'll talk about that next time. But
yeah,
here, when you see his regret when he's on his deathbed about everything. And I was watching the film again, and you can there's like moments where I'm looking at his eyes where he's saying something, but I'm like not really believing it.
Mhm.
Like there's something that he's hiding in his eyes this time around, and it could just be Michael Caine's eyes in general. But I saw it this time.
Yeah. No, I think that is likely an intentional decision by him, something that he's bringing into the character. Yeah. We also have quite an extensive cast. I wanted to bring up Bill Irwin, who plays Tars. He you would know from Legion. He plays what's the character's name? The one who's the two people in the same brain. You've seen Legion, right?
I have, yes.
The name's not important, but I thought that was an interesting
Hmm.
connection there. Um, John Lithgow, who plays Donald, he's of course an iconic actor. Um, David Jesse, who plays Romilly, I know him from Cloud Atlas, where he has a pretty important role, though not a very large role. Wes Bentley will kind of pop up in things. He plays Doyle. Probably his biggest thing is the Hunger Games, the first one, where he has the weird facial hair.
Yes. He's the only one I really know from that, so
Casey Affleck shows up here. This is before his Oscar win. Bit of a controversial figure, but he plays Tom, and then of course came back to work with Nolan for Oppenheimer for a pivotal scene. Timothée Chalamet, pre-fame Timothée Chalamet here, looking pretty young.
Oh, that was Chalamet?
Yes, Chalamet
Oh,
plays the young Tom.
okay. I thought he looked familiar.
Yep, that's Wonka himself and Paul Atreides. And yeah, oh, we didn't talk about Matt Damon,
Matt
who
Damon,
gives
right.
a really good performance. I think part of it, though, a lot of it is the casting. Because you see Matt Damon show up and you immediately kind of, because of his persona, you have this trust for him as a
Mm-hmm.
character. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't catch on to everything going on with man, even though it's pretty obvious from very early on. So yeah, I think that's just a brilliant moment of casting.
It's also just it's also one of those things where he shows up like almost 2/3 in the way of the film. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's Matt Damon when he shows up. It
Yeah.
always catches you off guard. It's like, oh yeah, Matt Damon.
And yeah, because you also have like Jessica Chastain doesn't show up for a bit, but we knew Jessica Chastain was in the movie before the movie came out, whereas Matt
Well,
Damon
I
they kept
didn't, but
secret. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know specifically. I wouldn't have because this is the movie where I really started to like Jessica Chastain. I think this might have been the first movie I saw her in.
mhm.
Um, but with Matt Damon, they actually kept it a secret that he was in the movie. So yeah, I give the performances a 5 out of 5. Just really solid across the board.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, last up we have the sound.
Oh, the sound. Like the no, I noticed a huge contrast. It's like we're on Earth, you have all this room tone, we got the sound of dust and life and everything. As soon as we get to space, just quiet.
Yeah,
Just quiet. The only sound you get is like when they're inside the spaceship and it's like just them talking and
yeah,
breathing.
yeah. And there are so many brilliant moments with that. I think the most memorable one is the airlock scene with Doctor Mann, where when the airlock fails, everything goes silent.
You get the initial and then it cuts when you
Yeah.
get the exterior view. And like especially in theater, like that
Oh
was
yeah.
just shocking because like the music happens as well. during that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, and then the scene after it when the sound comes back and then you get the score sort of ratcheting up the tension as they're trying to dock. Yeah, just such a brilliant moment of sound design. But then even something quieter like the moment we were bringing up earlier with Romilly and Cooper, and Romilly is talking about how it's sort of driving him a little bit crazy being on the ship with, not much between him and the void of space. And Cooper hands him uh, earbuds and he puts them in, and it's nature sounds. Then it cuts to an exterior shot of the ship as it's flying past Saturn with the nature sounds playing.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible and beautiful, and like this
Mm.
incredible
Yeah.
little moment there.
Yeah. Like even a powerful usage of music and silence is that scene where Cooper, he's watching the messages. It's
Yeah.
emotional. The music is emotional too, and then it just cuts when Tom's last messages ends. The music just cuts
Yeah.
right there. It's just sudden, and that's a powerful use of silence as well.
Yeah. And that's kind of the last moment between Cooper and Tom in the movie.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, they never have that catharsis the way that he and Murph do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and like you said, probably the weakest aspect of this audio design is probably the quiet moments. Besides Michael Caine, where you were saying that was like one where you couldn't hear what he was saying.
Yeah, I
There's,
couldn't make out a single word besides the when he says he lied.
there's a couple scenes. There's not that many, but there's a couple scenes where things are just so quiet, and it's just it could one be chalked up to the actors saying it quietly, but I also think that it's partly an audio mixing issue.
Yeah.
Like when we see the wormhole for the first time with Romilly and Cooper, that's a quiet scene as well, and so it's not as big as a distraction as like later films
Yeah.
tend to be, but it was noticeable here.
Yeah. I do think, this is a Nolan movie, so apparently this is part of his trademark is difficult to hear dialogue. At least I think this is the first one where that was widely sort of pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess no, because Dark Knight Rises, but Dark Knight Rises they re-recorded lines
Right.
for because it was enough of a controversy. Whereas here, yeah, it's mainly for me it was the deathbed speech for Michael Caine, and less so the sound design being bad, and more so how important that scene is and that dialogue is
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the movie.
Right. And besides those moments, like the sound design is just really good, spot
Yeah.
on. And part of the sound design is, of course, the musical score by Hans Zimmer.
Yes. Is this Zimmer's best score?
It's probably it's one of his most unique scores because of the organ, the use of the
Yeah.
organ. Not many other films really utilize the organ so much in main
Yeah.
films. This is the only film I can think of that uses the organ. Like nobody
Phantom of the
uses the
Opera.
organ. Well, I haven't seen that. So, and that's a musical, not really a film. But like it just fits so well. Like I just remember after the film came out, I would just listen to the soundtrack over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like I can visualize things just on the soundtrack and the organ.
Yeah.
And like you don't even have to watch the film and you can visualize maybe there's like a space exploration with this epic and giant soundtrack with the organ and just works really well. Like
Yeah.
my favorite tracks of course are Coward, um, when that whole sequence where man
Yeah.
betrays him and they try to rescue him. No Time for Caution when they're spinning, and probably Stay when they leave for space for the first time.
Mm. Yeah. Personally, for me, what stood out more this time was the softer, or not quieter necessarily, but there's sort of a melancholic whimsy to it.
Yeah.
Um, I think the one that stood out to me was the drone chase, the
Mm.
score during that.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, one of the themes of the film is sort of the lost wonder and trying to get that back. And this wonder at space. And you have the soundtrack that, it can be quiet and it can be intimate, and then it can be big and epic, and it moves between the two really well.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, very different from other sci-fi scores.
Right. Yeah. Where they're either electric or traditional classical John Williams
Yeah,
style. Um, but yeah, no, this was just so unique to listen to, and it just fits really well. It's
yeah,
a really good score.
yeah. I think it does have sort of similarities to the Sunshine score, though the Sunshine score is more heavy on the electronic elements, whereas this is very, again, it's the organ. That's what's really making it stand out so much.
Yeah, I remember the Honest trailer joke. It's like Hans Zimmer fell asleep on the organ again.
Yeah,
In those moments where it's just loud organ
yep.
continually rising.
Yeah, I gave the sound here a 4.5 out of 5. Again, bringing it down a little for some of those difficult to hear moments, especially the really crucial scene with Michael Caine that is unintelligible.
Hmm. Yes, I also brought my score down because of that, but not as much. Um, so I brought it down to a 4.8.
Yeah, so that leaves my final score as a 23.5 out of 25, which is a 94% or a 4.7 on our 5-star scale.
And I gave it a 23.8, which is a 95.20% or 4.76 5-star ready.
So yeah, this is I haven't put the Greta Gerwig scores in here, but this is for episodes involving us two. This is the highest we have rated a movie collectively.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it's my second favorite, or second highest. Again, not including the Greta Gerwig films here. For you, it's the highest by quite a wide margin.
Right, yeah. I love this film. If you look on my letterbox, it's like on that 4 favorite movies list that we automatically get.
Yeah, I, I I really was surprised rewatching it this time around how much I liked it, having not
Mm.
cared for certain parts of it before.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not sure if this is my favorite Nolan. We'll have to see as we go further on. I haven't rewatched most of these in a while, so but yeah, really a great experience revisiting this and kind of getting to see it again with a slightly different perspective on it.
Hmm. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, at Binging Barbie on Twitter, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast on Letterboxd where you can find lists of all of our rankings. We will be back next week to talk about The Dark Knight Rises. And starting next month, we will be doing bonus episodes on the Barbie TV series, starting with Barbie Life in the Dream House. Thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye. Don't leave me, Murph. Don't leave me. Or wait, that's not the line.
Don't let me leave, Murph. Don't let me leave,
You got it.
Murph.